You're watching RE&M, RBG TV.
Peace and Black Power, family. You already know it's Brother in Google. Now you see you are watching RE&M RBG TV. Dig it. Talk to my Muslim family today, man. First and foremost, peace and Black Power, man. Assalamu alaikum to y'all, man. But dig it, we gotta talk. We gotta talk about some things that ain't being talked about in the masjids. So y'all stay tuned. This is RE&M RBG TV, and I'm coming at you live and direct, family. Peace, love, and Black Power, man. You already know Black love is killed for the Black nation. So let's get it. Peace and Black Power, family. You already know. This is your brother in Google. Now you see RE&M. You were tuned in once again to RE&M RBG TV. We keep it raw and uncut, live and direct. Common sense talk for the common people. Peace, love, and Black Power. You already know. Black love is the one and only cure for the Black nation, family. So let's get it. Peace. First and foremost, you already know. I'm gonna be talking to my Muslim family today. Assalamu alaikum to y'all. Feel me? Peace and Black Power. And the reason why I want to do this video, this little breakdown, is because this is what I gotta say, which can be backed up by the way of the articles and stat and third. You already know, family. I got links in the box, in the description box. Drop down the box, click on the link, read away. When you finish reading, you want to have a dialogue, send them comments, let's talk. But nonetheless, I want to talk about some things that's not necessarily, if at all, ever talked in the mosque, ever talked about when dealing with Islamic history and things like that of that nature, right? So I just want to throw some things out there because at the end of the day, because you already know, like I've always been saying, if we're going to be a part of these certain entities and organizations and doctrines and dogmas or whatever, it will behoove us, especially of us as Black African people, it will behoove us to really get down to the foundations of this whole thing, whether it be Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hebrewism, more science, etc., 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 etc. We got to get down to the bottom of it. Because if not, we'll just be walking blind. But nonetheless, let's waste no more time. Let's get into it. Islam. Right? And when you ask the average black man or black woman or black child about Islam, what is Islam? Who are the Muslims? Right? You're going to get a very vague answer because we've been given very vague information. We're going to hear Islam is a religion of peace. If you look at the definition, it stems to peace and blah, blah, blah. We get this all the time. If you look at the word Muslim, it means one who submits his or her will to the will of Allah, God in Arabic, and those that believe also in the tenets of Islam are also Muslim. Right, we get that all the time. The Quran is the holy book of Islam and Muslims. We know this. Right? It's a funny couple of things that we think about when you really look at the breakdown of these, even the words. The word Muslim, right? It's a Euro-Arab word. European Arab origins. By way of Syria and that area over there. Check it out. I promise you, you'll see what it says for itself. So nonetheless, even in the basis when you start looking at the word, you're going to start to see, you know what I'm saying, foreign entities being fused in and then represented to the people, right? But the people are so caught up in it, caught up in the emotions of it, they don't even see it. They just see it as, I'm doing what Allah says, right? Now, here's a question that's been on my mind for quite some time now because I've been doing my homework and doing my history and all that good stuff. And I've always wanted to know why exactly the so-called Arabs of today, those over there in the Middle East region that they call it today or whatever, why they're so fair-skinned, right? Now, when you look on a map, geography tells no lies. When you look on a map, you'll see exactly how close in proximity the Arab Peninsula is to that of the African continent. You'll see it's literally next door neighbors. They're next door neighbors, nonetheless, right? Next door neighbors. Now, with that being said, most neighbors, in one way, shape, form, or fashion of another, They feed off of each other. I wouldn't say it's mixed in, but nonetheless, the influences are there from one to the next. They're neighbors, right? So with that being said, on a visual scale, right? You already know Africa, the homeland, where we come from. Melanated people, darker people, right? And of course, you know what I'm saying, some of our light-skinned brothers is too, because, you know, Africa is a land of all, you know what I'm saying, complexions nonetheless. So we got to throw them in there as well. But nonetheless, when I'm speaking, I'm speaking on a firm base. With dark people, right? And then when you look right across that little boundary line that was created, let's be clear, that little boundary line that was created to create what is now called the Middle East. In today's times, you'll see that those people look nothing like the people across the water back in Africa. They're two totally different complected people. So that gets my mind rolling. If these people are supposed to be, once again, neighbors, influencing and, you know what I'm saying, vibing off of one another, how is it that one is literally the total opposite of the next person? I just don't get it. So I started doing my homework some more. And forgive me for this one. I can't remember the exact caliph or the Muslim king's name. I can't remember the exact name. But if you go back in your histories, you go back in your studies, you'll see exactly where the infusion came in, where the water down of the complexion came in, right? One word. Well, first, before I even get there, look up the sub-Saharan slave trade. This is a slave trade that is never talked about in the school system. It's a slave trade that we barely know any information about. All we know is about the transatlantic, the European slave trade, the European and the Portuguese and Spanish and all that. We know about them. We get that every day, all day in school from growing up. We got that. They never talked about the Arab enslavement. They never talked about the trans-Saharan slave trade. Because if they did, I almost promise you that a lot of our black brothers and sisters, especially here in the West, would not have turned to Islam, including myself. Speaking as a former practicing Muslim. Again, former practicing Muslim. I do not practice the religion of Islam anymore. You feel what I'm saying? Facts override belief. Period. Now, during the trans-Saharan slave trade or whatever, that whole process in time, based on the historical evidence, based on the documentation, these Muslim invaders, right, Islamic invaders or whatever, they invaded Africa for, let's keep it 100, sexual conquest. Sexual conquest. They saw our beautiful black African woman and they wanted a piece of it by any means necessary. So what did they have to do? Black man, you know they was coming for you. They got to destroy you to get to that woman, because we already know the defense of the nation rests within the men. You tear down the defense, you can get to the might, which is the women. So they get the women, right? They force them into sexual conquest, make them their concubines, and this, that, and the third. They're slaves nonetheless. And according to Islamic rule, Islamic doctrine, and this, that, and the third, a slave, especially a female slave, a woman slave, is basically at the hands and mercy of her captor, her Islamic captor, especially under sexual pretenses. So in other words, if he want to go get something, he gonna go get it. Period. And there's nothing you can do about it because Allah said so. So again, I started doing some more homework, and I'm like, once again, I'm still asking myself this question: how are these people over there so fair-skinned when they're supposed to be literally neighbors, if not descendants, of those African people who migrated to this land? It makes no sense. But then it does start to click. It's called conquest, once again, so I just stated a couple seconds ago. But then there's also a word that's thrown in there that's not talked about too tough, and that word is castration. Double castration, to be exact, dealing with the Islamic world. Double castration. Our black men were castrated, not once, but twice, by the Islamic captors. Right? What was the purpose of doing the castration? Killing off of the seed. Right? Now, we all know it takes two to make a baby, to make an offspring. one, seed from that black man. Two, the fertile, what's the words I want to use? I'm going to say the fertile essence of that black woman. They come together, they produce a child. They produce a black child, nonetheless, right? The Arabs ain't like that. Or should I say the so-called Arabs at the time. They didn't like that because I'm going to tell you in a minute, they wasn't even the original Arab people. But nonetheless, I'll get to that in a minute. The so-called Arabs, they didn't like that. So they said, once again, we want that black woman for ourselves. Black man, you can't have her. We're going to, one, we're going to castrate you. Two, we're going to just up and off just kill you anyway, because it really makes no sense. So, by getting rid of the penis and the testicles of the black man, you're getting rid of that seed, that spark that helps create that child within the womb of the black woman. So with that being said, they turned them into eunuchs nonetheless. They turned them into eunuchs, right? And honestly, let's keep it 100. Us as humans, what really good is a man on a physical level if he cannot reproduce himself to carry on his works, carry on his name, his legacy? You just an existing person. Because at the end of the day, once you die, that's it for you and your family. So, they knew this. They acted on it. They started castrating the men. In the process of them castrating our black African men, these so-called Arabs, began taking our women, sleeping our women, breeding with our women, impregnating our women, and then what happens after time? Generation after generation after generation, the complexion gets lighter. The complexion gets lighter and lighter and lighter. It went from this to damn near this. You feel what I'm saying? All because they got rid of the male seed. They got rid of the male seed. They took the woman, held her captive, raped her, beat her, impregnated her, forced her to have those kids. Generation after generation, once again, like I stated later, and now we have what has now become known as the Arab people of today. When you ask a brother or sister who's an Arab, they're going to show you or point you in the direction of your local corner store, and they're going to show you Habibi behind the counter, and who does he look like? Does he look like me or does he not look like me? Does he look like you or does he not look like you? The answer is not. Here's the answer why. Go back a couple minutes ago when I said how the Arab Peninsula and the African continent, they're basically not brothers, but they're neighbors of one another, correct? The original inhabitants of that land, of the Arabian Peninsula, right? Especially the southern western region. Those original inhabitants were African people. They were black people, nonetheless. They were black people, nonetheless. Excuse me. So, of course, time goes on. Our people, you already know, we migrate, we spread. We're all over this planet. You can't go anywhere on this planet and not find a black person. I just said it on Mama Africa. So with that being said, once again, we started migrating into what is now known as the Middle East. We went from that southern western portion of the area, and we started going up. Eastward and northward. We started going up, right? And it was not a problem until these Europeans started messing around. These Turkish folks started messing around. They started coming down from where they were, come down south, and they started intermingling with folks by way of conquest, by way of forceful impregnation, this, that, and the third. So again, the people then start to become lighter in complexion over time. This was not something that happened literally overnight, or within a short period of time, or shorter as the transatlantic slave trade. The sub-Saharan slave trade lasted, you know what I'm saying, up to at least 1,400 years. At least 1,400 years. Easy. Sorry about that, I'm back. Nonetheless, like I said, these European Turkish folks, they started coming down, they started intermingling with our people by way of conquest, by way of forceful impregnation, this, that, and the third. The woman gets impregnated with their seed. Again, because our men were castrated, so these are their seeds being passed on by our women. And at the time, the original Arab was a dark-complected person, was a dark-complected being, a descendant or son and daughter of Africa. Let's keep it 100. Let's keep it logical. Let's keep it simple. Let's not get into all the games and this, that, and third. the original inhabitants of the Arabian Peninsula were the sons and daughters of African people that migrated to this new region. Now, the original, so with that being said, those invaders, those infusers of their genes into our genes, right? They have now become known as the Arab people because, again, time after time, generation after generation, by them continuing to sleep with our women, by them continuing to breed with our women, a process and sequence in which we as African men could not do in this region of the world because of the castrations, double castrations, penis and testicles. You cannot produce that child again with that black woman who you're divinely supposed to be with. So who steps in? They do. Who produces, or should I say, what's birthed through that canal of that black woman? Their babies. That's who's running around there right now. Not our people. Their people. Not us. We've been wiped out over there. Let's keep it 100. We've been phased out over there by way of this castration that took place during the trans-Saharan slave trade. Go back and do your homework. All of this stuff, just as much as the transatlantic slave trade was justified by Christianity in the Bible, sub-Saharan slave trade was also justified, you feel me what I'm saying, by Islam and the Quran. As well as certain hadiths of Prophet Muhammad. Go back and do your homework. It's there, family. It's not hiding it around the corner. It's in plain sight. It's hiding in plain sight. All you have to do is look for it. So, getting back to the whole religion thing or whatever, it makes me wonder why this is not taught in the mosques. Especially the black mosques. Why this ain't taught? You know why? Because the black imams don't know. The black imams are busy trying to get us, you feel what I'm saying, the attendees of these different mosques and this, that, and the third, these different kubbas and all that stuff. They're trying to get us on some Arab stuff. Let's keep it 100. Let's keep it real. Alright, on a personal note, the mosque I used to go to, or in my neighborhood out there in Roosevelt, right? Out in the hood. The mosque I used to go to, my imam or whatever at the time, whatever, I'm gonna call it a spade, man. My imam was a black Arab. Not the ancient Arab, but the Arab of today with a black face. When you listen to him speak, you heard Arabism. When you saw his mannerisms and how he walked and how he just dealt with the people, all you saw was an Arab. Again, not the Arab of antiquity, of ancient days. These people. No. These people. Turks. You feel what I'm saying? And like I said, basically it's like these different imams and clergy members or whatever, they're trying to get us as the people to infuse our natural beings, our natural essence into that of a foreign culture, all under the guise of God said. So basically whatever happens within the realms of these holy books and the realms of these institutions, this, that, and the third, it's pretty much justified and okay because God said. The Bible says it, the Quran says it, the Torah says it, so it's okay, it's cool. No matter how painful it is, no matter how hurtful it is, no matter how much detriment it causes to you or your people, it's cool because it's justified by God. It's kind of confusing to me. And last time I checked, everything in Islam, especially, right, it's all done in the name of Allah. It all starts off in the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful, right? So now it gets me questioning stuff again. The most gracious, most merciful. These are things that I had to recite myself in all of my different salats that I made as a practicing Muslim. I always started off in the name of Allah. The most gracious, most merciful. I always started off in the name of Allah. But then, homework will tell me that everything that was done to us, the slavery that we went through, the castration that my forefathers had to go through, the rape and torment that my foremothers had to go through, that's all okay because God said so? So I started asking myself, what God is this for me and my people? It obviously ain't a good one. It obviously is not benefiting me and my people because look who's actually in the better positions between the two. Let's look at the Arabs of today and the Arab of antiquity, aka black folks here today, right? Since you want to make the comparison, let's make the comparison. Nonetheless, we African people, but I just want to throw that word Arab out there because that's a term that everybody can identify with when it comes to Islam. No problem. We're going through the same things. You feel what I'm saying? It's almost like the pale Arab of today is in a much better position. He has the wealth, he has the money, he has the oil, and the researchers and all that other stuff that he took by way of invasion and all that stuff, let's be clear. But he's in your neighborhood, he's at your corner store selling you all kinds of death. And you call, you know what I'm saying, it's all good, because that's your Aki. That's all good. Yo, what up, Ak? Peace. Us, on the other hand, we're practicing the same religion, same doctrine. I'm talking to my Muslim family out there. Practicing the same doctrine, same ideology, everything. But yet, you can't even go into their masjid. For example, go into a Pakistani masjid and try to salam up a brother or salam a sister and see what type of response you get. I'm talking from experience, people. I know what the hell I'm talking about. Because I done dealt with many of the so-called Middle Eastern Muslims of today or whatever. And they all look at us like we some crazy folks. You know why? Because we are not them. Like the way they try to pass it off as. You feel what I'm saying? Oh, we're all brother and sister in the name of Allah. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Reality speaks on that one. Clearly, that's bullshit. But us being so emotionally tied up into it, we overlook that. We almost turn the other cheek. Just like Christianity taught us. So again, getting back to the whole complected thing, right? Like I said, I've always wanted to know why exactly why are they so fair-skinned? Why are they so light-skinned? And like I said, it all goes back to the trans-Saharan slave trade and castration. How they would literally kill off the root of a man, which is his penis and his testicles, so he cannot impregnate his wife, his divine mate, the black woman, and produce more black babies. They cut all that shit off. They cut it off. They kept the woman, took the man's root off, and then eventually killed the man. Just so they can have sexual conquest and sexual deviance over that black woman to use her for their own purposes, which is basically the creation of their people, the pale Arabs of today. That's how they were created, family. They were created by killing us and enslaving the black woman. That's how it happened. That's how it happened. If y'all ever wanted to know that's what happened, that's what happened, that's what happened. Again, if you want to look information for yourself, there will be links in the description box. Check it out. Reading tool. Let's converse. Let's talk. But, and I ain't go front. Speaking on a personal level a little bit, once again. Just like everybody, most people out here in America or whatever, most black folks in America, grew up in the Christian church or whatever. I was born and raised in the Christian church or whatever. Grew up, you know what I mean? Basically did what mama did, because that's what Big Mama did, and so on and so on and so on and so on. It was basically a Sunday tradition nonetheless. Something to do on Sundays. But then as I got older, as I started questioning things, the same things that we're taught not to question in religion, we're taught to believe. We're not taught to question for clarity. We're taught to believe with blind faith. So I started questioning things, and of course I couldn't get the answers I was looking for. So I left. I did my own question. I did my own search for my own truth. Right? And within that search, I decided to leave Christianity alone. I left it. I left it alone. Straight bounce. And I began charting other paths. I ended up, years later, whatever, began charting the path of Islam, Al-Islam, by way of my brother-in-law. Peace and black power to you, big bro. He put me on. You know what I mean? And at the moment, I can't front. At the moment, there were things that resonated with me, and I couldn't front. There were certain things that I took in that I felt were relevant at the time. And I was then. But then, years later, I start doing more research because I start beginning to have more questions. The imams were not answering the questions, just like the pastors weren't answering the questions. So I left. Things that I'm telling you now is what I'm finding out. It may bug you out a little bit, again, because your heart and your emotion is so tied up into it, because God said so, that you'll completely ignore or turn a blind eye to the historical evidence. Period. Now, we think that by us turning to Islam, we're getting away from the slave master and we're getting back to our origins and this and that. These are the things I was told. These are the things I was taught. And I actually believed this shit at one point in time. But then, history speaks for itself. Again, the evidence does not lie. The Arab slave trade has been running longer than that of the European slave trade. Now, the European slave trade may have had a much more brutal effect upon our people, but nonetheless, the Arabs have a whole lot longer track record of enslaving our peoples than the European could ever have. They've got the detriment, but they've got the longevity. Together, they both kicking our asses. Let's keep it clear. They're both kicking our asses. Like I said, I've always wanted to know the answer to that question. I'm pretty sure there's people out there that always wanted to know why is it that when you say the word Arab, it automatically alludes to this of what is not a fair-skinned person. But then when you go back into your histories or whatever, you go back into your studies, you will clearly see that the Arab people of antiquity, the Arab people of the ancient days, looked like this. Like this. You see how dark that is? It looked like this. It didn't look anything close to this. Nothing. Nothing. This is a result of rape, conquest, brutality. This is a result of natural essence from the Creator. Let that shit marinate. You feel what I'm saying? So I kind of just wanted to throw this out before the world, man, for the people, man, so y'all can honestly just start seeing different things that should be seen, should be known, should be made obvious, which are not, but it is what it is. But at the end of the day, folks ain't got no excuse for not knowing, man. They call this the age of information. No, I call this the age of ignorance. Because we have all this information that's readily at our fingertips, but we choose to leave it alone and just go with our beliefs. Facts are facts. You can't hide from it. Period. I don't want to spend too much time on this one, but I did want to get that out because it was on my mind. I always wanted to know, and I'm pretty sure there's all these folks that's out there always wanted to know, why is there such a difference in between the two peoples when they're literally neighbors? And here's your answer, family. Slavery, conquest, rape, castration. That land that they on right now, we are the original inhabitants of that land. What did they do? They gave us the boot. Why? Because they had to basically, just like the Jews or the Hebrews, that whole chosen people of God theory or whatever, they had to find their way into history. They had to write their way into history. Period. They had to write their way into history. Because if they didn't, you would never see them. You would have never heard about them. You would never know about them. You wouldn't know what a Muslim was. You wouldn't know what an Arab is. None of the above. Same thing, you wouldn't know about what a Jew or a Christian was. They had to infuse their way into history by way of your black ass. They had to ride down on us, to create them. It's true, family. It's true. These are things they're not going to teach you in your history classes in school. But I'm going to drop it on you because I love my people and we keep it raw and uncut. This is RNM RBG TV. Real live shit. Like I said, I didn't want to spend too much time on it, man. Y'all check the links out, man. Drop them information on me. Let's talk. Let's build. Let's get this thing under control. In the meantime, between time, you already know, I am your brother in Google. Now you see RENM. Coming at you live one more time. A little thought of my mind. Peace, love, and black power, family. You already know. Black love is the cure for the black nation. So let's get it. It's time to face a fact for a fact. We can run all day long, but your legs don't get tired, and that fact's still going to be right there waiting on your back. With that being said, let that marinate. Until the next time, you have been watching RNM RBG TV. Stay tuned for that real common sense dialogue, man. Peace and love and black power.